Explore a new galaxy, meet new species, and find a new home for the Milky Way inhabitants in a beautiful and dangerous new setting. These are all exciting phrases that were supposed to describe a game that we Mass Effect fans waited 5 long years for. Well, the game is out now, and almost 4 months later, every negative comment about the game has already been said. That is why I'm here to talk about something different. Were we too harsh on Mass Effect Andromeda? Today there are 3 main topics of discussion I want to talk about when deciding if we the fans were too harsh on Andromeda. Andromeda as a disappointment, Andromeda's moments of brilliance, and now the possible fate of my favorite franchise. Let's start off with why Mass Effect is such an important franchise to so many of us, and why everyone holds original games to such high standards. Mass Effect is a staple not just in video games, but in science fiction and storytelling in general. Mass Effect stands as an example on how to make one of the most interesting universes ever created. Along with such a great universe comes one of the most well-done and creative stories. A story set on a personal and galactic level that really connects to and feels relevant to the player.
The Reapers are still out there. If we lose Shepard, humanity might well follow.
I will show you true power.
We need a leader.
Mass Effect also manages to have, in my opinion, the greatest video game cast of characters ever created in a piece of entertainment. I was able to feel as if I actually knew all these characters, and I wanted these virtual creations and digital representations of people to have the best life they could. The characters in the original trilogy are so well developed that often I would think and contemplate on my character and crew even after I had pushed the power button on my console. When Mass Effect 3 left off on a bittersweet ending, depending on what option you had picked, I, along with the rest of you, were probably all waiting anxiously for any news relating to the next time that we could once again venture into this great universe. It is to these high standards and expectations that we all held Andromeda to, and rightfully so, as Mass Effect is in the title of the game. When the gameplay trailers and interviews started to roll out, and the game's curtain slowly started to be pulled up,
thank you for your patience, and sometimes thank you for your lack of patience. It's amazing for us as developers to see how excited you are for more Mass Effect. So tonight, at long last, here's your first look at Mass Effect Andromeda gameplay.
many fans began to curse the game for its flaws and condemn it as a failure even before release. I was not one of those fans, as to me the game looked fantastic, and I was so excited that another Mass Effect game was being made that I did not care to get caught up in the negativity surrounding it. I could see how some trailers are disappointing, but to me, the initiative trailers that talked about the operation of going to Andromeda, the method of travel we and all the other explorers would use, and the types of planets and tasks that we would find once arriving in Andromeda, were the trailers that got me excited for the most of this game. They were the trailers that made my mind race with ideas and excitement. Those trailers got me thinking about how we, the player, would have to think out problems logically, such as how to find a stable food and energy source, how to deal with dangerous wildlife on certain planets, and how to deal with problematic weather patterns. And my favorite thought of all, how would we learn to speak with the new and intelligent life that we would meet in Andromeda? And how would we acclimate to their cultures as we help them understand us and our culture? These are the aspects of the game I was looking forward to most. The shooting and the action were important to me, of course, but I wanted to be the perfect Pathfinder, just as my Paragon Shepard was in the original trilogy. I wanted to be the Pathfinder that would resolve as many issues as possible by peaceful diplomacy and with as little violence as possible. I wanted to be a Pathfinder that knew the biology and chemistry of all the species and knew how to take care of them and how to help them thrive on their own. I pictured being a galactic ambassador for all that was a strong leader, a friend, a scientist, an engineer, and the greatest warrior all in one body. And the music played in these trailers specifically made the whole picture that I had painted in my mind really come to fruition. Let's just take a listen to the theme of the trailers that's in the background. After years of waiting and thinking this is what the game would be like, the game finally came out. But the initial reviews from critics and fans alike were devastating. The complaints of the game seemed endless and described traits that you would never use for a Mass Effect game. An uninteresting story, a slow and boring beginning, a lack of interesting characters, awful writing and dialogue, and some of the worst technical issues seen from a AAA game in years. This was not the kind of comments I'd expected to hear about a Mass Effect game. A game that I thought could not be a disappointment. But after playing it over 3 times and putting well over 200 hours into it, and trying to complete every possible activity, outpost, and mission possible, I can say it was, in fact, a disappointing game. The story was not as interesting as it could have been, and the game very much just felt like a reboot of the first Mass Effect game, but with only half as much effort and thought. Meeting new species, finding ancient and abandoned alien ruins from a long-gone race, having to gain everyone's trust and respect through the story, and once again fighting a new galactic threat. Much of this sounds very familiar to Mass Effect 1, which can be either good or bad. If well executed, it could have been fine, but the problem here was that it was not well executed. Here's a quick summary of my problems with the game, and why I think it was disappointing. The story felt disjointed at times, the stakes never seemed to be that high, and when they were, the game had other faults that took away any momentum gained. Many characters did not seem to speak logically, and many characters came off as always being sarcastic or being a joker.
Everything's under control. Just a simple weapon malfunction. How are you?
What is this? Each other.
We have a bad plan to rescue people, and we're doing it. Any questions?
Nope.
Good.
Even in serious times when their lives were at stake.
I shot the console. Think he'll be mad?
What more could he do?
Liam? Hold me!
I'm sad I can't punch both of you.
The new crew lacked characters that would grip you and feel like they could be lifelong friends that you'd live with. For me, Drax was the only character that I would consider to be good, and even then, he was not as interesting as Grunt or Rex in the original trilogy. Vetra was also a well-done character, but not developed enough. In the original Mass Effect games, I would pick characters based on how much I liked their personality. And even then, I would often want at least 4 members at a time, instead of the only allotted 2, which did cause issues on my Insanity run-throughs in the original games. But it was worth it to always have at least Garrus on my squad.
Oh, don't make me laugh. Damn it, my face is barely holding together as it is. Some women find facial scars attractive. Mind you, most of those women are Krogan.
I don't give out client information. It's bad for business. You know what else is bad for business?
A broken neck.
Rex and Grunt felt like they were your brothers.
What tradition demands. Client Erdnot must respond. Your reforms will not go unopposed. You risk appearing weak at a critical time. Shepard.
Excuse me.
Out of my... Shepard. My friend.
Grunt.
Shepard. Shepard!
Morden was the best singer.
I'm sorry. I know that was important, but you performed Gilbert and Sullivan?
I am the very model of a scientist Solarian. I've studied species Turian, Asari, and Batarian. I'm quite good at genetics as a subset of biology because I am an expert, which I know is a tautology. My xenoscience studies range from urban to agrarian. I am the very model of a scientist Solarian.
And Liara has the best romance arc I've ever seen in entertainment.
And everyone's counting on you to do that for us. It must be overwhelming.
How do you get ready for something like this?
You cajole and threaten and make tremendous sacrifices until the galaxy realizes it has someone worth following.
You think so?
There's no doubt in my mind. It would be easy for a single ship to get lost up there, wouldn't it?
Yeah. It would.
In Andromeda, I picked my squad mates based on their abilities in combat, not quite as personal to touch. Moving on from there, the planets, while pretty and fun to traverse in an upgraded Nomad, felt either too small or too large with no context. The wildlife was too similar amongst all planets, the weather was not interesting, and the environment could not be interacted with outside of mining rocks for hours. This made the environment all feel really fake and unreal. Another big issue was there was never emotional weight or high stakes involved at many crucial times. When finding a new home, when helping out certain people on the Nexus, or trying to diplomatically find a process on who to revive from cryo first are just a couple of times that should have felt like important moments. It also didn't help that for being the only Pathfinder the entire initiative had for most of the game, that you had to spend so much time doing minimal tasks, such as having to earn enough credits for a scope for your sniper, or spend hours and hours mining rocks to be able to craft a new weapon. The crafting and mineral gathering in this game has to be the worst that Mass Effect has ever had yet. It takes hours to get enough material to craft almost anything. At least in Mass Effect 2 it was faster, and it had the best ambient music a game could have. All these seem like tasks others could do as to allow the Pathfinder to spend more time solving large problems like how to fix the food shortage. Those are just some of my main issues and disappointments with the game. I would need to do a whole other video just to list off all of them and talk about how they could have been fixed. When listening to how I've talked about the game so far, you would think it must be a bad game. But here's one part of the video I want to emphasize most. Mass Effect Andromeda is a good game. It's not a great game, but it is far from as bad as some people make it sound. It's a lot of fun gameplay-wise, it is a nice side offering of co-op multiplayer, and it is a complete game that requires no story DLC. There is no season pass, and visually it looks incredible. Their art team is incredibly talented. Besides all of those basic features, there are also genuine moments in this game that felt very Mass Effect. Traveling around in the galaxy map with the galaxy map theme music is one excellent part of this game. The new combat system is incredible, and a system that I would have liked to have seen return in all future games. The ability to go from a cloaked sniper to a biotic god on the fly is brilliant. The sound design made for these parts were also top-notch. Just listen to some of the biotic powers. There are also many compelling side missions that sometimes have enough character and story to outshine the main story missions, as well as even small scavenger quests that felt appropriate for a Pathfinder, and can even emit some emotion from us the player. While I cannot remember the exact mission and details of the task, it involved putting up a certain amount of spikes to map the area on Eos. And the task is you were putting up some spikes, some have already been put up, and you find out that it is being done by a father who had lost a child and was mapping the area in memory of her and his family back in the Milky Way galaxy. When you place that last spike in the ground, your character says a couple of nice sentences to the now dead father, stating that his task is complete and that he can now rest in peace in Andromeda while his spirit sees his daughter. It was a really small but emotional touch to a task that many people will probably never play. Moving on from that, another great example of showing how the characters could have been done well is the movie night side mission. It's a fantastic bonding moment for you and your crew where they feel real. The dialogue, the motions, the reactions, it's all done with flying colors.
Fast forward to the crash. Montage. Don't cut bits out.
I'd go for the crash.
Forwarding to the action scene, going once, going twice.
Skip to the good stuff, Liam.
Boo!
More moments like this would have gone a long way in the game to alleviate some of the negativity. Many of these parts of the game were not talked about much more once the game came out. In fact, almost nothing positive was said about this game, and instead there was a lot of hate and negativity towards certain game designers, towards BioWare, and towards EA as a whole. A level of hate that I had not seen in another game besides No Man's Sky. Except Hello Games did not suffer any consequences from a corporate overlord, and Hello Games was allowed to remain quiet, as toward BioWare Montreal received quite the opposite. Negativity towards Mass Effect Andromeda was so strong and so consistent that EA eventually dramatically downsized BioWare Montreal, and has put the Mass Effect franchise on hold for now. Looking at the franchise now and what happens next after that event seems like a lose-lose situation. While it can be said that there are positives of showing EA that we the gamers will not stand for low-quality products, it happened with the Mass Effect game, which is such a deeply loved franchise for me personally and many others of you out there. EA seems to have lost a lot of money on Andromeda, as evident by all the sales and discounts it's had, so they lost on their end, but more importantly, we the gamers also lost. Now because of such a strong negative reaction, our favorite franchise may never receive another entry, or if we do, it will not be for a very long time. While I am content with having the Mass Effect trilogy stand on its own and be a complete story, many of us are fans because of the incredible universe that story exists in. For us, we wanted to see more done as there's so much potential still left in the franchise. There's even a lot of potential in Andromeda's setup for future installments. But sadly, we may never get to see what could have been done. With all that has been said so far, I'll give my final thoughts and conclusion by stating that I think it was good that Andromeda came out the way it did. From Andromeda's case, publishers learned that they can't take advantage of us, the consumers, as we will fight back. However, I do think that we may have been a little too harsh on the game. The team behind Andromeda clearly had talent when you take a step back and look at it from a distance. They clearly also wanted to do a sequel and were ready to correct the first one's mistakes. There were many employees that clearly had a vision and strong passion for Mass Effect, but sadly got stuck in one of the worst development cycles for a game. I'm glad that Mass Effect Andromeda exists, but I'm sad to have to say such a bitter bye to a franchise that I continue to play to this day, and a franchise that has inspired me so much as a person. I can only hope that EA will eventually give Mass Effect another chance, but allow it to be done in a way where we, the fans, can easily call it a Mass Effect game.